Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. My name is Will from the Overwatch YouTube channel, and in this video we are going to be taking a look at an in-depth hero guide on the offensive hero Genji. Genji is arguably one of the hardest heroes to play in Overwatch. With his 200 HP, he has very little health, which can make him very vulnerable to high DPS heroes such as Pharah, Reaper and Soldier 76. But at the same time, Genji's damage potential and outplay abilities can make him undoubtedly one of the most lethal heroes in the game when mastered. Firstly, we'll talk about Genji's cyber agility. Genji is already a fast-moving hero without his cyber agility, but when you include the ability to climb walls, double jump and dash through the air, this makes him a very hard target to hit. Genji is also able to triple jump. If you double jump, touch a wall for just a second and then jump off it, you can use this to your advantage to get away from danger and also flank behind enemy lines. Secondly, we'll take a look at Genji's primary weapon and abilities. Genji's primary weapons are his shurikens. He can throw 3 in quick succession in a straight line, which we will call burst firing, or 3 at once in a spread pattern, which we will call fan firing. Genji holds 24 shurikens at once, and each shuriken holds 28 damage, meaning you can deal 84 damage if you land all 3 shots. Genji's shurikens do benefit from headshots, meaning that 3 headshots will deal 168 damage. In burst firing, Genji can throw 3 shurikens every 0.97 seconds, whereas when fan firing, he can throw 3 every 0.73 seconds. So which shot should you use? Well, fan firing has a higher DPS when you land all your shots, so you should use this more often than your burst firing. But you may have noticed that Genji shurikens deal quite mediocre damage. Now this is because Genji relies on his swift strike and deflect abilities a lot. We will get more into those in a second. But the final thing about Genji shurikens are that they are extremely hard to master. Some would say they are harder to use than his brother Hanzo's storm bow. This means they will require a lot of practice. So where this guide will teach you how to play Genji, but you'll need to practice with him until you feel comfortable playing him. So with that said, let's get into Genji's other abilities. So we very briefly touched on the fact that Genji relies heavily upon his other abilities, but one that can prove deadly is his Deflect. Upon activation, Genji deflects all incoming projectiles coming from the way he is facing for 2 seconds. All deflected projectiles will be reflected back in the direction of your crosshair, and they will act as if you have fired them, therefore not injuring teammates. For example, if you reflect Pharah's rocket, it will deal splash damage to the opposing team, and McCree's flashbang will stun the enemy when deflected. Genji cannot block any beam-type weapons like Symmetra's photon projector, Winston's Tesla cannon, Zarya's close-range beam, Mei's frost stream, and Symmetra's turrets. Genji can deflect, however, many enemy ultimates. This includes Pharah's rocket barrage, McCree's Deadeye, Soldier 76's tactical visor, Bastion's tank form, Reaper's death blossom, and Torbjorn shots during molten core. Mei's blizzard, Hanzo's dragon strike, Zarya's graviton surge, and Tracer's pulse bomb can only be deflected before activation. Just like with the projectiles, if Genji deflects an enemy ultimate, it will act as if Genji has fired it and damage enemies and not friendlies. Melee attacks are not deflected but blocked, so you do not take damage from them. And Zenyatta's discard orb cannot be deflected in any way, and Roadhog's hook will be deflected and it will deal damage to Roadhog, but it won't have any hook effect. Deflect serves 2 main purposes, to block damage and also deal damage. When using Deflect, always try to do both and deal some damage to an enemy whilst blocking. You can actively see incoming projectiles and know when they are coming, therefore allowing you to know when to use Deflect. However, with enemies like Widowmaker, you need to anticipate the shot as they travel instantly. 2 good times to use Deflect are when Bastions are in turret mode and they are shooting furiously at you, and with Widowmakers, as both will often net you a kill. Finally, try to use Deflect against McCree whilst in close range. If he fires a stun grenade at you, you can deflect it and stun him, often netting you a kill. But if he shoots it at the ground on any type of wall, you cannot deflect it. But you can use Deflect when McCree fans the hammer, and this will often net you a kill as well. Genji's final non-ultimate ability is Swift Strike. Genji darts through the air, slashing with his katana and damaging any enemies in his path. Swift Strike deals 50 damage and takes 8 seconds until it can be used again. However, that time is fully reset if Genji gets an elimination. Now let's talk about some useful combos to use with your Swift Strike. The first combo is for close range. For this you want to fan your shurikens, use your melee attack, and then Swift Strike. This combo can often finish off an opponent at close range, but what if you're not in close range of a melee attack? Well, if you're in range of a Swift Strike but not a melee attack, then you can use your Swift Strike, fan your shurikens, and then use your melee attack. All these combos should be performed in quick succession to allow for the most effective attack. And we have to remember two things when using both combos. 1. Melee instantly after using your shurikens or as fast as you can. 2. Always use your cyber agility to your advantage. Not only does it look cool, but it also makes you a harder target to hit if you are jumping off walls. Genji's ultimate ability is Dragon Blade. Genji wields his katana for a short amount of time. For 8 seconds, Genji can deliver high amounts of damage, up to 120 damage per hit to enemies within his reach. Upon activation, Genji's ultimate charge goes down fully and his movement speed is slightly increased for the duration of his Dragon Blade. Genji can swing his sword at a rate of 1 swing every 0.9 seconds, allowing for a maximum of 9 slashes. Dragon Blade can combine with any ultimate that freezes enemies in a place such as Mei's Blizzard, Zarya's Graviton Surge, and Reinhardt's Earth Shatter. The trick with Dragon Blade is to get within melee range and slash your katana, but also to use your Swift Strike as it will reset if you get a kill. Target the enemy supports and damage dealers first, as they will take 2 slashes to kill. And if they're below 170 HP, then they can be killed with 1 Dragon Blade and 1 Swift Strike, so it's a good idea to target them as well. Remember, you can still use all your abilities during Dragon Strike, so it isn't a bad idea to jump around to avoid getting hit. Now let's talk about the matchups you could face while being Genji, starting with the favourable ones. The first favourable matchup is against a Widowmaker. Your parkour abilities allow you to sneak up on her, and high mobility makes you a hard target to hit, and you can deflect her shots, dealing massive damage to her. Make sure to watch out for venom mines, as you could easily avoid them by parkouring around them or destroying them. Bastion is also a very favourable matchup against Genji, as he is usually still, which means you can flank him easily or use your burst shurikens when at long range. If he is constantly firing at you, using your Deflect ability can almost always land you a kill. Mercy is another good matchup if you are playing Genji. 1. She is not made for close combat, so in a 1v1 situation you can easily take her out. 2. Her support abilities don't really counter you. Oftentimes you can find yourself killing enemies before the Mercy can even get to them. The final good matchup is against your very own brother Hanzo. At close range, the only thing he really has against you is his scatter arrow. If he hits you with any of the arrows ricocheting off walls, then you're pretty much screwed, but swift striking and deflecting can all contradict this effect. Avoiding his scatter arrow often means that you've got yourself a kill, because there's a small chance that he will hit you with one of his arrows while you're jumping around, swift striking and deflecting. Now let's get onto the bad matchups you can face whilst playing Genji. Just because these are listed as bad matchups doesn't mean that you can't kill them, you simply just have to think smarter and work harder. The first hero Genji is weak against is Pharah. Deflecting rockets is difficult and you cannot deflect splash damage, so she can easily damage you. To counter this, try to keep your mobility up and try to target her when she is on the ground. Symmetra is also a good counter to Genji. As Genji normally runs around the map, Symmetra's turrets can easily shut him down, and because you cannot reflect any close range beams or turrets, this makes it easier for her to get damage off on you. To counter this, try staying in open areas and not in closed rooms where you think she will have placed her turrets. Mei is also a very tough matchup against Genji's, as you cannot deflect her freeze gun, so if you're frozen, you're pretty much dead, and if you get her to low health, then she'll just freeze up, heal up, and this means you'll have to outplay her again. If Mei is about to freeze you, then you should swift strike away, and the more you practice, the more effective your shurikens will become, making it easy to land hits on her. Tracer is also a pain to play against whilst Genji, as she can recall or blake to avoid swift strikes. Her DPS up close is way higher than your shurikens, so she can take you out with ease if you do not have your deflect. If you do, however, have your deflect, then she can probably recall and gain back some health, then re-engage on you while your deflect isn't up. I recommend getting a height advantage on Tracer, as she has no way of getting up to some places that you can get to. Zarya counters Genji, as you cannot deflect her particle beam. Keep your distance from her and use your burst shurikens, and don't attack her when she's got her shield up. If she has low health, then you can swift strike in, use a combo and hopefully get a kill. Lucio is a nightmare for Genji. He won't beat you in a 1v1, but the movement speed he gives to himself and his teammates makes it extremely difficult to land shurikens and combos on your enemies. If you try to use your ult against him, he can knock you back, drop the beat or amp up his speed, all making you less effective, which means there's no real way to deal with this. It can just make the whole game a little bit harder. Winston is a lot like Zarya, as you cannot deflect his Tesla cannon. The problem with Winston is that he has a gap closer. This means that you will not fare well against him. My only real counter to Winston is to stay away from him and only engage with him when you have Dragon Blade. The second to last bad matchup to Genji is D.Va. D.Va is hard to deal with as she has a lot of armor and is hard to kill up close as her boosters can be used to get away from you or get close to you. I can only recommend staying away from D.Va and let a teammate deal with her. At close range she will shred you, and at long range she has a lot of armor and your shurikens are hard to land. Let a teammate engage on her, and when she's focused on your teammates, that's when you go in, use your burst shurikens and help out your teammates. The last counter to Genji is Torbjorn. Torbjorn's turrets lock onto you instantly, so the high shiftiness you have against heroes isn't really going to work. To try to counter this, you can use a combination of your burst shurikens and deflect to deal with the turret, but you also will probably take damage in the process. If Torbjorn uses his ult and goes Molten Core, just run away and get the heck out of there because you basically got no chance against him. And there it is. I think we've covered just about everything with Genji. We've talked about his abilities, his numbers, strategy combos, and just about every positive and negative matchup you could face when playing Genji. If there's anything you'd like to see in a future video or you'd like to recommend a hero, make sure to comment it down below and I'll respond to just about every comment. If you really enjoyed the video or you thought it helped you master Genji, make sure to share it with your friends. And I would like to say thanks for watching. I have been Will from the Overwatch YouTube channel and I will catch you in the next video.